Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon. I am one of the career readiness consultants here at the Kent Intermediate School District in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I want to welcome Kelly Sommer. She's a registered nurse who will be joining us today for our Career Chat. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, thanks, Krista, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Terrific. I know the high school students love to know if what you were doing now is what you were thinking back in high school. There's so much pressure for them to figure it all out. So why don't you take us back on that early journey when you're in high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to West Catholic High School here in Grand Rapids, and I'm pretty sure for the longest time forever, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And so when I was in my senior year of high school, they had an internship opportunity to replace some credits or something. So I decided to do an internship at a vet's office. And so it was really exciting. I got to see, all the cute dogs and cats, and got to follow around a vet and talk to her about her schooling and, what, procedures and things that she does. They even let me help run some of the tests, and I got to look in the microscopes at the samples and things. So it was really cool. And it just kind of sparked this reassurance that, I love medicine, I love healing and fixing. But the internship, it really helped kind of open my eyes to, that I wasn't in love with the animal aspect that I thought I was. And a lot of it was because of I felt so bad, because a lot of times what held people back from getting their animals fixed or getting the issues resolved was because they couldn't afford it. And I was like, this is just so frustrating for these poor veterinarians. And I'm like, I think I want to help people, because with people we do everything we can, and there's so many more answers and solutions. So that kind of solidified it for me when I was a senior in high school, that I thought, you know what, I think I want to go into medicine to help people. And then so I went to Western Michigan University for college. And at that time, I was pretty certain I wanted to be a nurse, but I wasn't 100%. I didn't go straight into a nursing program. I took a year to just learn about, the different programs there were, because they have a whole college of medicine there. So there's, you could be anything from a social worker to a doctor to a nurse to a pharmacist, whatever you want. So but after talking with some of my family who have been nurses, and just, many of them said to me, your personality, you're always looking out for others. You put others before yourself. You would make a great nurse like that. And so that really stuck with me. And so I decided to go down the path of nursing.
And I love that you mentioned how other people affirmed you. I think that's really important to encourage young people to listen to the adults around them and listen to what they're telling you. Or if they're not telling you, ask, what do you see as far as qualities in me or personality traits that you think are my strengths? So I love that you got that given to you, and that you heard it, and that you as an encouragement. So you went off to college, and what were the classes like? Was that something that kind of was what you expected, especially organic chem, help young people understand some of that realistic view of nursing school?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, nursing school was hard. And I am one who I've always put a lot of pressure on myself. I've always wanted the best grades and always wanted to be the best student. And nursing school definitely forces that pressure on you. And for those who already get stressed out and pressured, it just kind of adds to it, because you have certain averages that you need to maintain and continue in the program. So, it's a lot of pressure on you. And it was hard going through it. I ended up towards the end of my nursing school, I was really stressed out, really hard on myself. And I ended up talking to my aunt, who is also a nurse, because I said to my mom, who she's a administrative assistant, I said to her, I'm like, you don't understand what I'm going through. Like the pressures of nursing school it's hard. And so she said, you're right. And so she had me call my aunt, who's a nurse, and she's like, I absolutely know exactly the same feelings you're going through. So to me, that's what got me through it, is knowing that I'm not the only one in this situation, that and every program has its battles, has its struggles, but just know your supports out there, and talk about it. Don't hold it inside, because it will get to you and eat you up. But I promise it's worth it when you get out of school.
Yeah. So how did you, and let me step back for a second. How do young people understand what a direct admit program or admittance once you get there? Because that'll be part of their selection of colleges. So what was Western for you?
Yeah, so I could have had a choice. I could have looked into basically going straight into nursing school right from high school, right into college. I chose not to do that path, only because I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to go to nursing school. I wanted to just take undergrad classes, which is like your biology, your chemistry, your math, your Spanish, or whatever, all of those classes, and then you apply for the nursing school. I said I really wanted to just get my feet wet, because college is a whole new environment by itself, but then starting a nursing program on top of a brand new school, I wanted to kind of slowly ease in versus jumping in head first.
What were you considering in addition to being a nurse at that point? Were you, because you said you kind of felt like you needed to wait just a little bit before a direct admit. What else were you kind of debating? Because I think a lot of young people are kind of debating, like, is this for sure what I want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was always medicine for me. I always knew I wanted some type of medicine, some type of caregiving. Um, I think it was just kind of I just wanted to see what was out there, and what the school that I went to, what they had to offer. And I had talked to some different counselors at the college at Western. And then I even got to go visit the nursing school and see the classrooms. And I think that's when it really hit me. And I was like, oh yeah, let's do this. This looks cool. Like, I want to be a part of this. I think that's really what did it for me.
And one thing that comes up a lot, Kelly, when I'm talking to young people at nursing school is sometimes they don't understand that some of the main training happens once you get your first real job, and that some of that first 4 years kind of general, and they start to specialize. So help young people understand what that transition, because they get nervous, like, how do I know what to do? And help them understand that the kind of that
Yes.
process.
Yeah, and that's actually so that's really interesting too, because when I went into nursing school, all of my professors said the same thing. They're like, we are going to teach you the theory behind what you do. We're not going to teach you how to do it. So when I got out of nursing school, I had only maybe started 1 or 2 IVs. I maybe spiked an IV bag like once or twice. I've never put in like the tubes down, to empty out stomachs. I never did those skills, but I knew how to do them. I knew why I do them and everything else. So when I graduated nursing school, I wanted to make sure that I got what we call an internship, they call it all different things, an internship, an externship, and a residency program. At the time I went to, when I graduated, I stayed in Kalamazoo and I worked at Borges Hospital as an intern. And so they helped transition you from student to nurse, and they helped you study for your boards. They partnered you up with a preceptor, and you would get to do the hands-on skill part that you didn't really get in nursing school. And it kind of helped it, so it wasn't as scary to start off by yourself. And I highly recommend finding, if you go to nursing school, finding a hospital that will hire you in as a resident or an intern, because that really sets you up for success.
Is your understanding that it's pretty common to have those kind of that extra support at the beginning? Is that pretty typical, do you think?
I think for the most part, yes. They definitely want to make sure that nurses that they feel safe. There used to always be like this culture of like nurses eat their young or set them up for failure, and we don't want to do that. We want our nurses to stick around. So I think our culture has really shifted a lot in the last several years, and I think we're really supportive, and we want people to succeed because we need nurses. So
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate those insights. I know that young people might have an idea of what being a nurse is from maybe TV shows, or maybe they know a nurse too. Can you give us kind of the big picture? And you specifically are in the kidney transplant area. So why don't you help young people understand what your daily work is like?
yeah. So I'm a lot different than just a typical bedside inpatient nurse, although I used to work as one. When I started off as an inpatient nurse, I did travel nursing for a couple years. I worked at different hospitals, different units. And while I was travel nursing, I got a unique job where I was a transplant coordinator. And this was in Arizona, and I was a liver transplant coordinator. And I completely fell in love with it. I thought it was the coolest job ever because, you had these poor patients who were so sick and dying, and they get this second chance at life. I mean, they get this organ transplant, and it completely changes their life around. And it's just incredible. And so I knew I had to be in transplant, like no matter what. So when I moved back to Grand Rapids, got a job at St. Mary's, the reason why I joined is because of the kidney transplant program. And I worked inpatient there. But then I started picking up some leadership classes. And you would have asked me in nursing school, like, hey, are you going to be a nurse manager? I would have laughed at you and said, absolutely not. But as you kind of start taking these classes, and they're training, and you just get that full picture of why things are set up the way they are. I just started falling in love with it, and I was like, I like leadership too. So then when this job opened up, I was like, this is the mixture of both things I love, so let's do it. And I've been here for about 5 years in this position.
And that's fantastic. Just so young people understand, I'm assuming that your hospital helped pay for those classes as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. They started off with like, they called it a frontline leadership like cohort. And it was basically like a group of of bedside nurses who were just wanted to do something more besides just come to work each day. And so they put us all in this class, and they taught us, how do you recognize opportunities to fix things and make things better. And then it was like a year long that you'd meet like once a month, and you focused on a project. And my project was about helping my staff, like helping the staff I work with, like get excited and feel really connected to their work, be excited about coming to work. And so I did a year-long project on it, and I was like, this is really cool. This is what leaders do. I want to do this. And then just kind of worked my way in.
That's terrific. And so one of the students, Jasmine's wondering, so you had done some of that bedside nursing, but now you're in this role. So are you doing mostly coordination? Do you get to deal with patients directly anymore? Help the kids understand like what the difference is.
Yeah. So the really fun thing about being a nurse and being a leader is I get to do both. So, I like today I did a lot of like my manager job functions, going to meetings and helping with different projects and making sure people get their paychecks, those important things. But then tomorrow morning, I'm going to be sitting at our front desk and helping our patients get checked in for their appointments in the morning. So I get to meet them face to face. Also, earlier today, I walked over into the hospital, went up to our inpatient unit, met with some of our patients, talked to them about their hospital stay, and worked with the staff over in the inpatient side of things. So I get to kind of like put my feet in both pools, and it's really nice because I'll never get bored.
And I think that's something that a lot of young people need to know about, that there's so much change and variety in nursing. You can be specializing, in cardiac and then decide to get the training in a whole nother department. And that keeps it really interesting and fresh when you can keep
Yeah.
developing, right? I love that about nursing.
Yes.
As far as, well, someone who wants to know specifically if you liked Western's nursing program, would you recommend that? And are there other ones that you've met of your colleagues who've gone to school, anything that kind of stands out of how you even decide what nursing school to go to?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good ones out there. It really, I kind of went by, word of mouth. I also looked at and talked to what if there's a certain hospital that you really want to work with, like what nursing school usually partners up with those hospitals. I know that in at Western, we went to Bronson a lot, which is a hospital in Kalamazoo. Here at St. Mary's, we see a lot of nurses from Grand Valley, from Aquinas, from Davenport, from Ferris, I think is also, they also come over here. So, a lot of that too, because, and then it's funny too, because, as being in nursing school and going into the hospital, doing your clinicals, that's also a great way to kind of get your foot in the door. And, because a lot of our nursing students also work as, we call them PCAs, but they work as like patient technicians and help the nurses. And it's a great way to get experience without having to fully commit to being if you want to even see what nursing is like. And that actually, I'm kind of going in circles on this one, but
Okay.
so when I was in nursing school, or right before I started nursing school, when I was about a freshman in college, I got CNA trained, which is certified nursing assistant. I was trained on that, and I worked in some nursing homes. But that way I got experience with working one-on-one with patients and providing some of those basic care things. That just helped also kind of solidify my decision on whether or not to be a nurse. And I also got to work with nurses that way, one-on-one, and get their perspective and ask them, like, hey, like, what do you love about this job? What don't you love about this job? And, things like that. So that is a big help too, is to, just get your foot in the door. Even those people who work in the hospital who like deliver food trays or clean rooms, you're still around patients, you still interact with nurses, and it's still a great way to get experience without committing to a career choice.
I love that you brought that up, Kelly. I'm going to say a little more about that. I just wanted to say, finalizing the conversation on the schooling, I encourage you young people to go to talk to the different nursing schools, because some determine the students they choose differently, and some have a little more holistic approach versus strictly grades. So that's something you're going to look at, just their culture and how they choose. So thanks for that. But yes, PCA, nurse techs, KCTC, our tech center here in Grand Rapids. Those are great ways to get your foot in the door, see if you like it. My daughter did nutrition tech at Spectrum. They have and St. Mary's has this too, but it's like I'm not sure St. Mary's schedule is the same, but Spectrum has a student schedule, Tuesday, Thursdays, every other weekend from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's a great way. My daughter was considering nursing, and she did that job for actually 2 years while she was in high school. And she saw how hard those nurses worked. And she's like, Mom, I don't know if I want to be a nurse. But she really developed some expertise around nutrition, because she ended up getting promoted to the one taking the phone calls and knows, what a heart diet was. And it was such great learning for her as she was figuring out what she wanted to do. So if you do know health or you want to explore it, man, those jobs, they pay pretty well too. I think they start at 11 or 12 for a high school student, and you can get into their benefit system right away. So young people, if you haven't considered getting a job, even in nutrition services is a great way to get your foot in the door, for sure. One thing I hear about, Kelly, is sometimes I just heard this again. Someone happened to have fainted while they were doing a job shadow, and someone said, I'm sure glad you figured that out now. So, don't be a nurse. But that's not true, is it, Kelly? Help young people realize the understanding of passing out sometimes is a physiological response, and how does that impact your career choice?
Absolutely. You know, I actually had a couple of nursing, some of my classmates in my nursing class who passed out. You know, in their clinicals, and one of my really close coworkers, who actually she now works with me here in Transplant, she passed out on her first day on the job in the hospital as a brand new nurse. And you know, there's just a reaction to everything. I think a lot of it is nerves. You know, you know, it's a new job and it's a lot of responsibility that, you know, you're not always used to. Some people forget to eat, like they're too nervous to eat breakfast. Or, you know, like if you're helping in a procedure, that's what happened with my nursing school friend. She was in, I think there was a woman having a baby and she was standing with the mother holding her hand, and she had her knees locked up because she was so still, because she was so focused on and watching of what was happening, that next thing you know, she woke up and was on the floor. So it happens all the time. It doesn't mean that you're not meant for this role, or that you can't handle blood or anything like that. Like it happens to the best of us.
Exactly. I just want young people to hear that. I
Yeah.
also want them to hear that there are some nursing jobs that don't work with as much blood and bodily fluid. So go through
Yep.
the training and then get yourself into one of the positions that doesn't see that every, so.
Yes, exactly. Yes, like my job right now, like, yeah, I don't see the blood and gore, but you know, I get to make the phone calls to call patients in to get their kidneys. So, you know, it's still just as exciting. You still get that big adrenaline rush and that feeling of like I just made a big difference in someone's life, but without having to be the one that puts the kidney in myself. So it's probably a good thing. I don't think you want me to do that. So
I want to focus a little bit on what a lot of schools are focusing on are called soft skills or employability skills. When you think about your role, what kind of skill sets do young people need to be thinking about? Like, I know teamwork, critical thinking, kind of help young people understand from your perspective some of those things they need to be paying attention to when the schools are teaching it.
yeah, you know, I think, you know, definitely multitasking like what you guys are doing now, which means, you know, if you've got multiple things on your plate going on at the same time, you know, you've got multiple homework assignments due, or multiple projects, and your home life is busy. How do you get through that chaos and prioritize and think straight on, okay, what do I need to do first? I think building your organization skills, you know, are you a person that makes a list? Are you somebody that, you know, is more of a visual person? Or, you know, do you need like a moment of resetting each day? You know, things like that. I think those are really important skills. And those will help you succeed, because, you know, as you get into whatever career choice you'll have, whether it's medical or anything, you know, you're going to have multiple things coming at you at the same time, and you know, you have to be able to navigate through those rough waters and know how to get through them and still do the things that need to happen. You know, I think too, you know, like I said, with you know, your personality stuff, like talk to your loved ones, talk to your family, your parents, your friends, to get more of an inkling of like who you are as a person, because that makes a big difference in your career choice. You know, somebody who is more outgoing and or somebody who kind of puts others before themselves, those are ones that make great healthcare workers. You know, ones that have that attention to detail, that are really organized, that aren't afraid to lead a group. Those might be more, you might look more in like an administration or a leadership position. And you don't have to choose that right now. You know, like I said, you would have asked me 15 years ago if I would have been a manager, I would have laughed at you and said, you're crazy. So, you know, things happen, and there are always roads. You'll always get into these like forks in the road, and just follow your gut and what is telling you is the right path. And that's usually the right way to go.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I just, again, want to encourage young people, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to figure out what kind of nurse you want to be. You just have to start that process. Do things in high school, take those math and science classes, do volunteer work, get an entry-level position in a hospital, then you're testing it out all along, even volunteering in summer camps, there's special needs
Yeah.
camps. Do anything you can in high school just to kind of test it out, and then you'll have a better
Yeah.
sense of what
And
you want to do.
and absolutely too, a lot of your classes in high school, I know everyone always thinks like, oh, I'm never going to use chemistry. I'm never going to use trigonometry ever again. Yeah, that may be true, but that is a stepping stone that gets you into those programs, and they do look at that. So it is important, even if it feels like, oh, this is such a waste of my time.
That's a good point, Kelly. We only have a few minutes left, actually 3 minutes. So maybe in the next minute, Kelly, because I do want to show the young people a resource to help them with the self-assessment. What is your favorite thing about your job? And what is the one thing you just really don't like?
Oh gosh. So my favorite thing about my job is kind of what I said. There's a group of us nurses in the office, and we get to make the phone call to the patients. So when we get a kidney that comes in, or, if a patient passes away, and they are an organ donor, they will call us and say, hey, we have a kidney available. It matches one of your patients on the list. And there's a big national waiting list. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that are waiting for this kidney. So when it matches them, it is an absolute miracle. And it is the coolest thing in the world to call these patients, and you can call them in the middle of the night and say, so-and-so, I have a kidney for you. And we're crying, the patient's crying. It is like so incredible. I just can't, every single time I've been doing this for 5 years, and it still gives me goosebumps every time I get to call someone. So that is my favorite. My least favorite part of my job is, just some of the kind of redundant parts, like the paperwork, or I had to write this huge long document that I was mad the whole time I had to write it, because I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. So not everything is super fun all the times, but that's with every job, and you get through it. And again, you focus on your favorite parts, and it makes it completely worth it.
Well, I'm going to show them a resource, and one of our students just asked a question that I was going to pose as your final one, kind of that word of wisdom or advice. So I'll let you think about that for just a second as I give them a resource that they can use, and then we'll come back to you, Kelly. I really so appreciate everything you've been sharing already. So young people, and really for counselors too, roadtripnation.com/explore is like one of my favorite sites. It actually has a PBS show too, where they take recent college graduates who go talk to people and do these kind of conversations with people in jobs that they think they want to check out. So we're doing this for you, but there's another whole TV show about it. So if you go to their dashboard, if you go to roadtripnation.com/explore, it's going to ask you a series of questions. And it's going to give you some matches of careers that might be a good fit for you based on your interests. And then there's these videos that are connected with it. And it's just another way to explore. And you might, again, learn about jobs you never even knew existed. So I just love roadtripnation.com/explore. And just a reminder, I'm sorry, counselors, seems like I didn't put the right permissions on my Google form. So just send me an email at kristaharmon@kentisd.org, and I'll make sure to fill out the form on your behalf. We'll make sure you get your sketches. So no worry about that. Kelly, you've been so great. Give us that kind of final word of wisdom or encouragement as young people head into the nursing world, or healthcare for that matter.
Yeah. My greatest advice would be, to never settle with what you think you can do. Like I said, you can go into nursing thinking that you may end up, being one type of nurse, and keep an open mind. You never know how your life will turn out and how your career will turn out. And there's so many fun adventures that come with this career. It's hard. Nursing school is hard. But like I said, it's so much fun to be there for our patients and for our loved ones out there. So
yeah, you just got to grind through it, right? Just grind. And because once you're through the school, then you get to like your job.
Then the fun starts. Yeah.
Awesome. We have some thank yous coming And already, Kelly, thank you so much for making time to be here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.